The moment two people stop contacting each other, something strange happens. It does not feel equal. One side feels like something just broke inside them immediately, while the other side feels almost nothing at first. And that difference alone quietly decides everything that follows. Because what most people don't realize is this: silence doesn't end the connection, it transforms it. First into confusion, then curiosity, and finally into emotional reality. But each person goes through that transformation at a completely different speed. Stay with this for a moment, because if you've ever been stuck wondering why silence feels heavier on one side than the other, you're about to understand the hidden psychology behind it. And once you see it clearly, you'll never misread silence the same way again. And if you're watching this closely, don't just listen passively. Pay attention to your own patterns. Because somewhere in this process, you'll recognize yourself more than you expect. Everyone thinks men and women deal with silence in the exact same way, but they really don't. When both of you stop talking, stop texting, and stop reaching out completely, something very different is happening inside his mind compared to what is going on inside yours. And the person who truly understands this difference usually comes out ahead, not because they are playing some kind of clever game, but because they know how to protect their own peace, while the other person is still trying to understand what went wrong. The silence is not equal, it never was, and pretending that it is equal will only keep you stuck in one place, waiting and hoping. You sit there holding your phone, feeling that strong urge to type something, anything at all, just to break that heavy silence sitting between you two. You keep telling yourself that you are strong enough not to reach out, that you will stay calm and hold your ground no matter what. But every single hour feels like 3 long days, and every small notification makes your heart suddenly jump. Then you check it, and it is just some random app trying to sell you something you don't even care about. You look again to see if he read your last message or when he was last active, even though everything has already stopped. You are not even together anymore, and still the silence feels louder than any argument you ever had before. That is where most people find themselves stuck, in this strange space where you are not together, but you are not fully apart either. You are both just floating in this quiet place, unsure of what it really means. And it starts to feel like whoever reaches out first somehow loses, like whoever breaks the silence is the one who cared more, needed more, or could not stay strong. But the truth is, something deeper is happening under the surface that most people never fully understand. While you are sitting there overthinking every single detail, creating full stories in your mind about what his silence could mean, he is experiencing something completely different. Not better, not worse, just different in a way that changes everything. And once you truly understand this difference, you stop making yourself feel crazy. Because when communication suddenly stops between two people, it does not feel the same on both sides. It splits into two separate experiences. She feels it right away, deeply and emotionally, like something important has been taken away from her. He usually feels it later, after time passes. She starts wondering if she ever really mattered to him at all, questioning everything she believed was real between them. He, on the other hand, slowly begins to wonder if he let something truly valuable slip away from his life without realizing it at the time. She wants answers, she wants clarity, she wants closure that will help her understand the situation. He wants quiet, he wants space, and he wants time to think without feeling any pressure. It is the same silence, but two completely different stories are playing out in their minds. And if you don't understand this, you will keep reacting based only on your feelings. For most women, the silence hits immediately and strongly from the very first day. The moment the texts stop coming, the mind starts working overtime without any rest. You begin to analyze everything, every conversation you had, every small detail, every word you said or did not say. You try to figure out exactly where things started to go wrong. You ask yourself questions again and again, wondering if you were too much or maybe not enough, if he found someone else, or if he is just busy, or if this is his quiet way of ending things without saying it directly. Your mind keeps spinning in circles, searching for answers, trying to make sense of why someone who was talking to you just yesterday has suddenly disappeared from your life. And that happens because for many women, communication is deeply connected to emotional connection. When he is texting you, talking to you, and checking in on you, you feel safe, you feel valued, and you feel like something real is growing between both of you. So when that communication suddenly stops, it does not feel small, it feels like everything has changed overnight in a way you did not expect. That is why the silence feels so painful at the beginning. It is not just about missing him as a person, it is about what that silence represents in your mind. It starts to feel like rejection, like you were not enough, like he moved on easily while you are still holding on to something that no longer exists. But what most women do not realize during those first few days or even weeks is that he is not feeling the same way at all. And that is not because he is cold or because he never cared, but because he processes things differently. When a man pulls away or when communication stops, he is usually not thinking about you as deeply as you might imagine. That can be difficult to hear, but it is often the truth. He is not over-analyzing the silence, he is not trying to find hidden meanings in it, and he is not creating emotional stories about what it all means. Instead, he is simply moving through his daily routine, staying busy with his life, and sometimes even feeling a small sense of relief that there is no pressure to respond or keep things going constantly. He is just focusing on what is in front of him. Most men need space to process things in their own way. They do not always want to talk about their emotions immediately. They prefer to step back, clear their mind, and understand their thoughts quietly without feeling pushed. So when the silence begins, he might actually feel okay with it for a while. Not because you did not matter to him, but because silence does not carry the same emotional weight for him that it carries for you. He is focused on his work, his friends, his routine, and his own world, and for some time that feels enough. But that feeling does not last forever. The same space that felt comfortable at the beginning slowly starts to feel different. It becomes noticeable in small, quiet moments that he cannot ignore anymore. Time passes, days turn into weeks, and then maybe even a month, and slowly he starts to feel something missing. It is not sudden or dramatic. It happens in small ways. He hears a song that reminds him of you, sees something funny and instinctively wants to send it to you, or has a difficult day and realizes there is no one to talk to the way he used to talk to you. These small moments start to build up over time, and that is when the silence changes for him. It stops feeling like freedom and starts feeling like a real loss. By the time he reaches that point, you have already gone through the most intense part of the emotional experience. You have already felt the pain deeply, already cried, already thought about every possible reason, and already sat with that silence long enough to begin understanding it. Slowly you start to move forward, even if it does not feel perfect or complete. And this is where everything begins to shift in a powerful way. While you were feeling the silence as rejection, he was experiencing it as space. While you were questioning your worth, he was focused on his own life without thinking too deeply. But now the roles begin to change. You have already faced the pain directly, and because of that you start finding your strength again. You begin to remember who you are outside of that connection. You fill your time with things that give you energy, and you stop checking your phone every few minutes without even realizing it. This change in your energy is something he can sense, even without direct communication, because often people only start to understand the value of something when it is no longer easily available to them. When you are always there, always responding, always giving your attention, he could take it for granted without realizing it. But now that you have stepped back and your energy is no longer directed toward him, something shifts inside his mind. He begins to wonder about you, to question if you are okay, if you are thinking about him, or if you have already moved on. And this is the part that many people do not fully see or understand. When both people stop reaching out at the same time, the silence does something important. It forces each person to face themselves honestly without distractions. It removes the comfort of constant communication and leaves space for real thoughts to appear. And in that space, both people begin to see things more clearly, not through emotions alone, but through reflection that only silence can create over time. For you, that silence meant facing everything you were trying to avoid for so long. It meant sitting with your feelings, your fears, your deep need for answers, and some kind of certainty that would make sense of everything. You had to look at it directly without running away, without distractions, without anyone giving you quick reassurance. You already went through that uncomfortable inner process even when it felt overwhelming and heavy. But for him, that process is only just starting now. What felt like space before is no longer just empty air. Now it feels like something real is missing, and that absence slowly starts to grow. Because when silence turns into true absence, it does something powerful inside a person. It creates curiosity in a very real way. It makes him replay old memories in his mind, moments he did not think much about before suddenly become meaningful. It makes him question his own decisions and wonder if stepping back was actually the right choice, or if he walked away from something important without fully understanding it. But this is exactly the moment where you have to be extremely careful about what you do next, because what you choose here will shape everything that comes after this point. When he starts to feel that absence and begins thinking about you again, your first instinct might be to move toward him quickly. You may feel the urge to respond immediately the moment he reaches out, to show him that you still care, that you are still there, and that nothing has really changed on your side. It feels natural, almost automatic to want to reopen that connection. But in reality, that is the biggest mistake you can make in this situation. Because if you return to being the same version of yourself who was always available and always waiting, then nothing actually changes between you two at all. You simply restart the same pattern that existed before everything went quiet. He becomes comfortable again. The curiosity that was building inside him disappears, and you slowly find yourself back in the exact same position you were trying to move away from. You are once again the one waiting, wondering and hoping for consistency that never fully comes. Think about it clearly. Every time you were the one reaching out before, every time you carried the conversation forward, you were showing him that your attention was always there for him without effort. He did not need to work for it or question it. And when someone feels certain that you will always be there no matter what, they stop valuing it the way they should. That is just how human behavior works in many situations. People often do not fully appreciate what they have until they truly feel like they could lose it for good. So when the silence happens and you finally stop chasing, you break that pattern completely. You are no longer predictable, no longer guaranteed, and that uncertainty is what starts to shift his attention back toward you. It makes him notice what is no longer there in a way he never did before. The real power of silence is not just that it makes him miss you over time. The deeper power is that it gives you space to become someone who no longer depends on him missing you at all. It gives you the time to rebuild your confidence, to reconnect with your own identity, and to find a sense of peace that does not rely on someone else's presence. And when you genuinely reach that point, when you actually feel okay without him, everything begins to change in a natural way. Because energy is always honest, and people can feel when something inside you has shifted. They can sense when you are no longer sitting there hoping for their attention or waiting for them to come back into your life. That shift creates a kind of quiet attraction that cannot be forced or faked. It is not about pretending to be distant or playing any kind of strategy. It comes from genuinely living your life without needing someone else to complete you or validate your worth. And that kind of energy naturally draws attention because it feels real and grounded. It shows that you are choosing yourself first instead of depending on someone else to choose you. As more time passes, something else begins to happen on his side as well. At first he might try to test the situation in small ways. Maybe he likes one of your posts or sends a simple message that does not carry much meaning behind it. These are not strong efforts, they are small signals to check if you are still there, if you still care, and if the connection can be reopened easily. He is not fully ready for a real conversation yet, he is just observing your reaction. And this is exactly where many women make a mistake that puts them right back where they started. That is where the dynamic truly changes between both of you. You are no longer chasing or waiting for signs. You are simply living your life in your own way. And he can feel that shift even without direct communication. It makes him curious about what changed, about who you have become during that time apart. It makes him want to reach out again, this time with more intention. But there is something important you need to understand clearly. Not every man will come back, and that is completely okay, because that was never the real purpose of the silence. The purpose of that silence was to give you the space to realize that your value does not come from being chosen by someone else. You do not need to be chased to know your worth. You do not need his attention to feel important or secure within yourself. You do not need his messages to feel emotionally stable. The silence teaches you that your peace comes from within you, not from another person's presence in your life. And once you truly understand that, it stops mattering whether he comes back or not, because you are already okay either way. But if he comes back with real effort, if he is willing to have honest conversations and show consistent actions over time that prove something has changed, then you can decide whether you want to explore that connection again. And that decision comes from a place of strength, not from fear of being alone or losing him. You are choosing him because you want to, not because you feel like you need him to feel complete. That is a completely different kind of energy, and it changes the entire foundation of the connection moving forward. In the end, the silence between two people is never just about missing each other in a simple way. It is about being forced to look at yourself clearly without distractions. It is about understanding who you are when you are not focused on someone else's presence all the time. And that process feels different for everyone. She experiences it faster and more deeply, and often comes out stronger and more aware. He experiences it more slowly in his own time, and often realizes what he lost only after she has already moved forward with her life and found her peace.